less traditional accommodations, Osa found peace for her two children in this glamping pod. My daughter wakes up every morning, opens the curtains, wipes the dew from the windows, and looks out at the view, she tells me. Yes, she loves it here. It's calming. I feel lighter, and I start to believe everything is going to be okay. For these families, this feels like the safest place in a country where it seems everywhere is a front line.
John, it was just so rare to hear that word, I feel safe. And as we were coming down the mountain, it was Saturday, you were live on the air, and that's when missiles started striking Lviv, and people were hearing explosions, and they were going underground. Really, everywhere in this country feels like it could be a front line, and that's why this is so rare, just this tiny little corner of Ukraine where people think they can find shelter away from the bombs and the bullets.
Salma Abdulaziz, a terrific report. Your work here has been wonderful, showing us this different side of what's happening in this country. Really appreciate it. And New Day continues right now.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good morning to our viewers in the United States and all around the world. It is Monday, March 28th. I'm John Berman in Lviv in western Ukraine. Brianna Keeler is in Washington. Breaking overnight, Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, coming under heavy fire. Our CNN team on the ground there reports hearing several explosions. An advisor to President Zelensky warns that Russia is increasing its missile strikes across the country and that Vladimir Putin is trying to wipe Ukraine off the face of the earth. We're also getting reports of powerful explosions in the last few hours in the western city of Zhytomyr. A Ukrainian military official says a fuel depot was hit by a missile fired from Belarus. So with a new round of peace talks set to begin in Istanbul, President Zelensky says Ukraine is ready to accept what he calls neutral, non-nuclear status under certain conditions.
Our priorities in the negotiations are known. Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity are beyond doubt. Effective security guarantees for our state are mandatory. Our goal is obvious: peace and the restoration of normal life in our native state as soon as possible.
We are seeing new evidence of the scope of the destruction in Ukraine. Kharkiv is in ruins. Ukrainian officials say Russian forces are now firing at a nuclear research facility in that city. And in Mariupol, Ukrainian officials claim 40,000 residents have been forcibly taken from the city into Russian territory and placed in filtration camps. Then in the western city of Lviv, where Berman is, just 50 miles from the Poland border, the Russians hit a fuel storage center with at least one cruise missile not far from the downtown area. And now Ukraine's military chief says that he believes Vladimir Putin is seeking to split Ukraine into two, using the post-war division between North and South Korea as his model. This morning, Ukraine is vowing to conduct an immediate investigation after video had surfaced of soldiers shooting Russian prisoners in the knees.
Want to go to Kyiv and bring in CNN's Frederick Pleiken. Fred, I know you had a busy, eventful night there with all kinds of explosions. Give us the latest.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. We were up well until 5 or 6 a.m. this morning, hearing those explosions, hearing air raid sirens quite frequently as well. Very large firing that we were hearing, not sure whether it was outgoing or incoming. And actually right now, as I'm speaking to you, we are once again hearing some pretty loud thuds. And I was checking just a couple of minutes ago before we went to air. There's huge plumes of smoke now over the northwestern outskirts of the capital of Kyiv. That's where we've seen a lot of the fighting, especially around that suburb called Irpin. That's a name that we've mentioned so much over the past couple of weeks, really, with some pretty heavy fighting going on. The Ukrainians saying they control about 80% of that district. What we're seeing on the ground here and what we're hearing the entire day and the entire night meshes with what the Ukrainian military said just a couple of minutes ago. Spokesman for the Ukrainian army saying that Russian forces were trying to advance on the capital of Kyiv, were trying to break through, and as he put it, taking streets and small villages. He said so far the Ukrainian forces are managed to confront them and managing to hold them back. Of course, the Ukrainians in the past couple of days have launched a counteroffensive of their own. The deputy defense minister also saying that she believes the Russians are trying to create what she calls corridors around the capital of Kyiv, which obviously seems to mean that they're trying to encircle the city still. Once again, the Ukrainians saying that they're able to hold the Russian forces back. One thing, John, yesterday we managed to go to the north of Kiev, to really a place that's now deemed as one of the most dangerous places around the capital. And there the people also told us that the Russians haven't been able to advance much at all over the past couple of weeks, but they are taking massive shelling in those areas. We were at a completely destroyed house, obviously completely unsafe for the citizens who still remain there, as that war obviously very much still in full swing. Again, the Ukrainians saying they believe right now they have the Russians on the back foot, but of course they understand it's still an extremely big and dangerous army that is on the gates of the Ukrainian capital. John?
So, Fred, it's interesting that Ukrainian officials say the Russians are still trying to cut Kyiv off in a way, create these corridors around it, because in some ways it seems that the Ukrainians are relaxing some of the protective measures that they've had there. I know kids are going back to at least online learning today. I know that the curfews have been shifted. And I know we've seen people who are headed back to Kyiv. And I know you say that people are out and about a little bit more. So what's the situation?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do think that there's a bit of, I wouldn't call it normalcy, but at least people going out more than they had been over the past couple of weeks. I think that initial fear has died down somewhat, but as I'm talking to you, I'm really hearing some pretty heavy thuds in the not too far away from where we are right now. So certainly still a very dangerous situation. At the same time, though, you're absolutely right. We got a message this morning from the Kiev's mayor's office, Vitaly Klitschko, saying that the curfew had been reduced by 2 hours. It goes into effect an hour later and ends an hour earlier. So all that seems to indicate that the folks who are here in the city are trying to find some way back into a life, obviously not a normal life. Certain things are reopening. And it certainly also seems to show that the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian authorities are confident that they are going to be able to hold the Russians off, defend the Russians off. If you go here through the city, John, we have to say it is an extremely well-fortified city right now. It's absolutely on a war footing, but it certainly seems as though with these territorial defense forces, they really have set up barricades in a lot of places. They say they are very well prepared should the Russians try to make any more moves onto the city, John.
Well, Fred Plekin, as you continue to hear explosions there, please stay safe. Keep us posted. Thank you, Fred.
Officials are imposing an emergency curfew in Zaporizhia, Ukraine. The typically busy streets of the southern Ukrainian city completely empty, cleared for police to monitor potential threats from Russian forces. CNN's Ivan Watson is in Zaporizhia, Ukraine, with more.
This is a checkpoint at the entrance to the eastern Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia. But this is an unusual day. The government has imposed a citywide daytime curfew. Traffic is not being allowed in or out. And we're getting a look with the local police force at how they're enforcing this emergency curfew. I'm getting a tour of the city with two local police inspectors. We have passed many deployed Ukrainian soldiers. We cannot show them or film them for their safety, given that there is a full-fledged war taking place in this country. What is striking about this daytime curfew is that a city of nearly 1 million inhabitants is now a complete ghost town.
My name is Roman, Panchenko Roman. I'm Ukrainian. I serve in police for already 6 years. I like my work. I'm proud of my work. In the territory of the city, only policemen and some military men. Every car which goes to the city is checked.
The police say it's easier to maintain security and search for suspected Russian collaborators when the city is locked down. How far away is the Russian army right now from where we are?
Russian army is several fronts, but the nearest place where Russian tanks are dislocated is maybe 30 kilometers from this place.
A half hour by car.
Yes, you're right.
Would you defend Zaporizhia if the Russian army comes here? I mean, you're not soldiers, you're police. Would you fight?
I'm a man. I am a Ukrainian man. As for me, it's very ashamed for men not to protect his family, not to protect his house, not to protect his life.
The people here know what happened to other Ukrainian cities and towns that have been attacked by the Russian military. They don't want that to happen here, but they say if it does, they're ready.
Ivan, and there we see you in Zaporizhia. Tell us what it is like now. I see people appearing to shop behind you.
Yeah, I mean, the curfew's over and the city's just come back to life. It's like, it's such a dramatic change. The streets are full, people are walking around, and it's all the more remarkable when you consider how close the invading Russian army is to this city, that there are Russian tanks a half hour's drive away, a Russian military that has decimated other cities, and that life still seems to go on. I think it reveals how people can become accustomed, can adapt to the most bizarre situations, Brianna.
Yeah, and taking these moments of safety where they can get them to have some normalcy in their lives. Ivan, thank you so much for that great report. Really appreciate it.
It is fascinating to see all those people out there in Ivan's report. What a wonderful story that was. I will say things can change, though, in an instant. The situation in so many places in this country is still dire. This morning, I spoke to Alexander Slobozhan, the executive director of the Association of Ukrainian Cities. He and his family, they were trapped in Bucha. This is a city that has been under siege and now very much under Russian occupation. Alexander, you were trapped in Bucha for weeks with your family, really with no food, no water. Tell us what that was like.
24 лютого я по роботі, я є виконавчим директором Асоціації міст України і
On the 24th of February, I was doing some
ми
work
опинилися під обстрілами якраз
and we got trapped under the shelling.
І до 12 березня я знаходився там
And basically, I was trapped in Bucha until the 12th of March.
Бойові дії. Вдалося вийти завдяки організації коридорів.
And we were lucky to escape due to the humanitarian corridors which were set up.
Евакуювали місцеве населення. Це був перший такий вихід на підконтрольну
It was the
територію.
first try to evacuate the local civilian population.
Перший час намагалися забезпечити якісь умови проживання постійно.
First we tried at least to lead some sort of human life.
Сиділи по домам.
And during the shelling we were sitting indoors.
Випав сніг, ми просто розтоплювали цей сніг.
We didn't have any water, so we were just basically melting the snow. We didn't have any gas or any central heating.
Завдяки поставкам гуманітарним в перші дні організувала такі.
And due to the humanitarian aid that we were receiving the first days,
доставляти їх у віддалені райони, але це було складно, тому що постійно.
And it was very difficult to deliver the humanitarian aid in the far-reaching regions of that particular part.
What's the situation in Bucha right now?
Зараз Буча знаходиться під окупацією.
And now Bucha is under Russian occupation.
Вся життєдіяльна інфраструктура, відповідно,
all the infrastructure is in ruins.
Теплозабезпечення,
water supply, heating
центр міста,
doesn't exist.
Квартали, вони зруйновані.
All the houses are basically in a rubble. It's a pile of rubble.
Частина муніципальної влади і безпосередньо сам мер знаходяться там. Тому що багато людей
Part of the
залишаються
local authorities,
під
including a
завалами,
local mayor,
і
they're still
вони
in Bucha.
намагаються їм доставляти необхідно і з того,
And
що
they're
є.
trying to supply
Там
the
тривають
local population with all the necessary.
навколо населених пунктів, де Збройні Сили України проводять операцію по звільненню.
And the Ukrainian army are conducting the operation to liberate that particular area.
І, відповідно, того ж самого харчування, тому там дуже зараз почастішали випадки мародерства.
Well, and due to the lack of food and some other necessary bits, there were some cases of looting in the area.
Do you feel that the Ukrainian forces can retake cities like Bucha and other cities in the east?
Так, да, в нас абсолютно впевненість, тому що
Yes, we are totally convinced they will do it.
Невеличкі села, поступово українська армія метр за метром
Some smaller villages in the area, Ukrainian armed forces, meter by meter, they are liberating them now.
All right, thank you so much for that interview. An unforced error or a moment of honesty, the White House forced to scramble after President Biden goes off script. And speaking of unscripted, this is not how Will Smith, we expect, wanted to be remembered the night that he finally won an Oscar. We're going to break down this slap heard around the world next.
African Voices Changemakers, in association with Glow Unlimited.
Afrochella is an annual celebration in December that highlights Africa's diverse and vibrant culture.
What we simply want to do is be able to communicate culture through food, art, music, and fashion. Because these, we feel, are simple connectors that people can find consensus on, or people that can connect with. Each pocket has their own fans of people that they enjoy. And then there's people like me that enjoys all four. And when I'm in Afrochella, or if someone is like me and they're in Afrochella, it's like they're mini heaven on earth.
Co-founder Abdul Karim Abdullah says his connection to the continent runs deep.
I grew up in both New York City and the Bronx, and I also grew up here in Accra. My parents wanted me to have a very authentic experience here, so they left us in Medina Zongo.
Today we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
Our engine continues, our impetus, our momentum.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers. Give me the facts on voter fraud.
There has never been a moment where voter fraud has affected the outcome of an election.
And we also dive below the headlines to explore vital issues impacting our lives.
Normally this theatre would be filled with people and art and debate and energy. And so now we have to rely on the two of us.
How interesting is it to be Tyler Mitchell today? It's crucial we make sense of what's happening. There seems to be some confusion that maybe you can clear up. Where are the US forces in Syria going? And fully understand what's at stake.
What's happening now in the world is a great thing because people are talking about subjects they never did before.
Amanpour, tonight on CNN.
I'm Natasha Bertrand at NATO headquarters in Brussels, and this is CNN.
They may look similar, they may taste similar, but sweet potatoes and yams have some differences. These root vegetables are not even related. True yams are native to Africa and Asia. Most yams today, 95%, are harvested in West Africa, while many of the yams sold in the U.S. are typically grown in Caribbean countries. And yams are closely related to lilies and grasses, while sweet potatoes are native to the Americas and are part of the morning glory family. Now, when it comes to your health, both of these root vegetables are low in calories and high in nutrients. 1/2 of a large sweet potato has just 81 calories, and the flesh of a medium-baked sweet potato has enough vitamin A, that's in the form of beta-carotene, to meet your entire recommended daily amount. Yams tend to be starchier. They also are good sources of nutrients like vitamin C.
I'm Barry Hurst, Energy and Sustainability Director at Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric was ranked the world's most sustainable company in 2021 by Corporate Knights, and it drew a lot of attention to what we've been working on now for over 10 years. So I think the important thing to emphasize is that it's a long-term commitment and that it takes a lot of organization to really make big strides. So the advice I would give is do strategy and action in parallel. We see a lot of companies who have a strategy but are unsure on how to implement it, and we see companies that want to get action but don't have a clear strategy. So I would say always do the two in parallel if you want to get maximum impact and really accelerate your journey.
I think we can already say that this is going to go down as one of the most shocking moments in Oscar history. Will Smith hitting Chris Rock in the face after Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head. Here it is.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked me.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's
G.I. Jane のジョークだったんです。
I'm going to, okay? I could, oh, okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
All right, so if you think that was dramatic, Will Smith then goes on less than an hour later to take the top award of the evening. He won Best Actor, finally, moments later. Joining us now is CNN correspondent Stephanie Elam. She was there in person at the Oscars last night. Okay, tell us what happened, Steph, but also there's so much context here, right? I mean, this is, I didn't know this, but I found out that Jada Pinkett Smith has dealt with alopecia. She's dealt with an autoimmune disorder that causes hair loss, which is part of the reason, as I understand it, that she has a short haircut. And so this was something that, with that knowledge, your heart almost sinks listening to the joke that he made. And then they also have further history over the years.
There's so many things to unpack that, of course, all started. And for anyone who thinks, Brianna, that was a bit, I can tell you everyone in the Dolby Theater thought the same thing. But all you have to do is look at Lupita Nyong'o's face right behind Will Smith when he is yelling from his seat after just slapping Chris Rock. You can see her face like going from all the changes. No one knew what was going on. But what we don't know is whether or not Chris Rock actually knew that Jada is dealing with alopecia. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. You can argue that Will Smith knows the stress that this has been for his wife. And if you haven't dealt with alopecia, if you don't think that your identity is somehow connected to your hair, I would disabuse you of that thought, because it really does matter for people to go through this. She's been public about it, and that is why her head is shaved. So you know that. Then you also have the 2016 Oscars when Chris Rock hosted, and this is when it was Oscars So White. And so there was people who were saying that there were people saying that they were going to boycott that show, and he said that Jada Pinkett was going to boycott, and he went in on a joke about that, because saying it didn't really matter if she was there or not because she wasn't invited. So there is some of the context, Brianna. Now let's take a look at how Will Smith, as he was widely expected to win, there's been so much goodwill for Will Smith this award season. He won the SAG Award. We were pretty sure he was going to win the Best Actor, the first Oscar win for him, a big moment for him. Obviously, completely tainted by what just happened beforehand. Listen to how he handled it.
Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees. And thank you on behalf of Richard and Oracene, the entire Williams family. Thank you. Hope the Academy invites me back. Thank you.
And you could feel the energy there. Everyone in the Dolby Theater so quiet when he got up there to speak because everyone wanted to see how this was going to be handled. And also, it's worth noting that he did apologize to his fellow nominees and to the Academy, but not to Chris Rock. You did see during the commercial break, we could look down and see that Denzel Washington was up. He was talking to Will. You saw him kneeling down, talking to Jada as well. We saw the producer of the show, Will Packer, come out. We also heard Sean Diddy Combs when he was on stage saying, hey, Chris and Will, we're going to work this all out like family. So there was definitely this energy of like, we're going to squash this quickly. I don't know how quickly that happens, but there are a lot of people who are upset by this. Some saying that, hey, Will defended his wife's honor. Others saying, I'll never watch a Will Smith film again.
There's so much going on. And look, you can't unslap someone. I think we talked, Stephanie, about, you understand in a way some of Will Smith's emotion, but this is violence that we witnessed. And I think it was interesting that Denzel Washington went and spoke to him and that he alluded to that, right, in his speech.
Oh, for sure. He talked about how Denzel told him, was like, when you're in your moments of greatness, that's when the devil can come in, or something along those lines. He definitely spoke to that. And also, you know, there has been so much love for Will throughout this award season, and not just because of this award season. In Hollywood, there's a lot of love for Will Smith. And so we've seen him on the carpet. He's been open. He's been talking to people. He's been out there. And I do think that it's possible that your defenses are down because you're receiving so much love that when something else comes up, you don't know how to react. And maybe he didn't. I mean, this is a split moment decision and one where he could have reacted differently. Obviously, that's not how this played out, and that is all people remember. I keep feeling so sorry for, Questlove, who won Best Documentary right after that. That is why Chris Rock was on stage, and he was flustered and emotional about winning, but everyone was so distracted inside the Dolby Theater, and I don't know if that part read that way. So there were a lot of people who just felt like this could have been handled in different ways, and he still could have defended the honor of Jada Pinkett. But it would seem that there needs to be some sort of kumbaya moment between Will and Chris, because if this is some built-up anger and tension over years of Oscar shows, it's time to handle that.
Yeah, look, I didn't like the joke. I think her appearance is totally off limits, especially when you put the context in there. But it is, to your point, Stephanie, that moment just overshadows so much achievement, and not just Will Smith's. You know, it robs a lot of people of recognition that they certainly deserve. Stephanie, thank you so much for being there and reporting on this. I do appreciate it. And also, I should mention, we're going to be talking about this in the next hour. I know that if you were talking with your coworkers today, that is a story that you're going to be talking about. So separately, Russia is laying out why it believes that it could be entitled to use its nuclear arsenal, how the rest of the world should respond next. Plus, the western city of Lviv, Ukraine, coming under fire this weekend. But as the residents there tell our John Berman, they refuse to be afraid.
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
This is the result of one single blast.
3.3 million Ukrainians have now fled this country.
You don't have to go far to find a family who has been displaced.
We just heard an air raid siren ring out.
We run down to cover. It is hard to imagine life returning here.
In Kiev, Dnipro,
Poland.
This is CNN.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
I'm Patrick Ottman in Havana, Cuba, and this is CNN.
Russia outlining what it believes, what it says, is its right to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The country's Deputy Security Council Chairman, Dmitry Medvedev, saying that Russia is entitled to use nukes in several specific cases, including, quote, when an act of aggression is committed against Russia and its allies, which jeopardize the existence of the country itself, even without the use of nuclear weapons, that is, with the use of conventional weapons. Joining us now to discuss, to put this into context, very importantly, is CNN national security analyst Andrea Kendall Taylor. Okay, I think to anyone just listening to Medvedev saying that, who is a layperson, it sounds incredibly alarming. How do you see it?
Well, it is alarming to hear these constant threats coming from the Kremlin about a potential use of nuclear weapons. These are threats that they've been making even since before this war began. You remember right before they invaded, they did this big strategic nuclear exercise. And the goal of that is to really signal to the United States and NATO, stay out of Ukraine, don't get involved. I think with the statement from Medvedev, it didn't add anything that we don't already know. This really is long-standing Russian nuclear doctrine. And the four categories that he gave for a potential use of nuclear weapon really do fall into the two things that are explicitly stated in Russia's nuclear doctrine, which is an attack on Russian soil. Even if it's not nuclear, they still reserve the right to respond in a nuclear way. And if the existence of the Russian state is under threat, those conditions aren't going to apply here. And so I think that's the good news. I still continue to believe that the risk of a use of a nuclear weapon is low. I understand that the U.S. administration is taking the threats, though, extremely seriously. And what they're doing is very vigilantly monitoring for any actions that suggest that Russia would be moving towards the use of a nuclear weapon. We've heard words. There has been an absence of any actions. And so, again, I think that just underscores that the potential use is still low.
I do think it's interesting to think of Biden's comments in Poland now, where he was saying, and it appeared to be an ad-lib riff that he was doing, that Putin can't remain in power, right? That might be something that Putin would perhaps consider an existential threat if he believed that Joe Biden meant it. How do these things interact?
Well, I think, so yes, I think that's the one case where, it gives people a little bit of pause of worry. So because Putin has been in power for 22 years, I think he has begun to kind of equate himself with the state. So you could imagine if he feels threatened but I think the way that you get there is not because of comments from President Biden. It's going to be on the battlefield. And if President Putin is worried about a very blatant perception of loss, that they're not doing well, then that's when I think he believes his own power is jeopardized. And I think that is the case in which the potential risk of a nuclear weapon is highest. If Russia really is performing poorly and Putin feels he has to prevent this perception of loss. But again, I think, the statement about, that Putin must go, it didn't add anything new from President Putin's perspective. And in Ukraine, the stakes are already high. So Putin already understands that his fate is very much affected by and tied to their performance. And so the fact that President Biden made this comment didn't somehow all of a sudden raise the stakes of this conflict.
That's very interesting, Andrea, to hear you basically say, simmer down. Yeah. You're not freaking out over it. I think that's important to note. You said the risk of the use of a nuke you believe to still be low. Why do you believe it is low? But also, how would things perhaps get potentially out of hand, which is what happens when there are calculations in a nuclear situation?
Yeah, so I think the risks are low for a couple of reasons. One is just the international condemnation that Russia would face. And yes, we can see that Russia is already isolated on the international stage, but it still has some backing. India has been on the fence, but really notably China is still very much in Russia's corner. And if Putin were to use a nuclear weapon, that would, I think, entirely jeopardize that very important relationship. And then if you think about, a potential use of a nuclear weapon against targets in NATO member states, that would require the United States, the UK, and France to retaliate. And I do believe that Putin takes Article 5 and the kind of collective defense commitment very seriously. And so I think he would understand that, especially if it were targeted at a NATO member state, that then the risk of retaliation would be great. And that is a deterrent because he still takes that NATO threat and the deterrent of NATO very seriously.
Andrea, great analysis. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Andrea Kendall-Taylor with us. Berman?
So the air raid sirens here in Lviv are a regular occurrence. And just this weekend, there was a missile strike just past that hill behind me. It was a scary moment for this city, which has not seen the worst of the war, which only made it more stunning to see thousands of people packing the streets not too long after. Defiance comes in many sizes, in many shapes, in many sounds. And sometimes it's not about being anything other than just being. You're not going to stay inside.
Yes, because our child wants to breathe fresh air. We want to breathe fresh air. And we don't want to spend such a beautiful day inside.
Even though not 24 hours before, the city was a target of a Russian missile attack. You can see the smoke still rising.
But again, look at those flames. They're just roaring.
You're out walking on the streets enjoying the day. Why?
Because I think any person get used to such sounds, trying to get rid of fear and to live its usual life. I think so. So I'm here because I believe in my army.
Roman, a street musician, is donating half his proceeds to Ukrainian soldiers.
They should see that they cannot defeat our people. We are not scared. I have a friend in Mariupol and he captured a Russian soldier. And they asked this officer, why are you doing such things with our cities? And he answered, because you need to be afraid of the Russian army.
Why are you wearing wings?
Because this is a symbol of unity for Ukraine, freedom and independence.
Independence, Ukraine!
Out here on the streets, we're really not far from where these missiles hit. It's about 1.5 miles from here, just past that TV tower you see there in the distance. For many, even the majority we spoke with, one reason they're relatively unfazed is because they've seen worse. Olena came here from the devastated Kharkiv.
I never thought that I can get used to such things, and when I saw it was far away, the smoke is far away, I wasn't scared. Feeling is familiar for us because we are coming from Kyiv, and we know how explosions sound.
Ludmila and Arina are here from the hard-hit Sumy region. They have survived so much.
Even though there could be explosions, we will go outside, because we want to show that we are strong, we are not scared. We will fight for our land, and we will not give any centimeters of land territory to invaders.
Can you show me your flag?
It's her birthday today.
It's your birthday today?
Her 6th birthday, one she will never forget. Thankfully, not for the bombs, but for the Barbie. And one more thing.
Thank you.
She got a puppet, she told me. A puppet that is all hers. Like this day for the Ukrainians that no one can take away.
Was that the secret, Berman, that she whispered to you?
Arina whispered in my ear that she got a puppet. She wanted me to know that she got a puppet. Of course, I don't speak Ukrainian. I don't know the Ukrainian word for puppet, so there was a lot of negotiating after to what exactly she had said. But she really wanted me to know, and I just felt like it was so special. There's something so sweet and poignant about her taking ownership of her birthday. This is her day, damn it. You know, and no one's going to take it away from her, not Vladimir Putin, not with his missiles. Look, I get it, and they all get it, that there are places in this country that are seeing much, much worse, much worse. There are cities that have just been devastated. But the people here feel like when they can, living their lives is one of the best ways they can resist.
Yeah, we're seeing that in small ways, too, in other places that have been harder hit. That's something that has struck me from the reports that we're seeing from our correspondents out there across Ukraine this morning. That was a beautiful report, Berman. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thanks so much. So President Zelensky says Ukrainian troops have discovered Russian ceremonial uniforms. What that says about Russian plans for a quick victory. Plus, a school in Georgia surprising its head custodian with a touching display of solidarity for Ukraine.
I'm Hadas Gold in Jerusalem, and this is CNN.
I think that there's an understanding that wellness and fitness and well-being is important in a COVID world. And that is certainly what we're seeing. Not only are we seeing a significant demand for membership across our estate, but we're also seeing an increase in usage, existing members using the clubs more. And that on top of hybrid working. You know, we've got lots of data that tell us that members are going to not go into the office as much. We're a suburban-based business. We're seeing people come and use the clubs differently. And that is all positive for us. So on the negative side, we've got an increase in the cost base. But on the positive side, we've got a greater demand for what we're offering. I think someone has to be absolutely committed to improving their mental and physical well-being. But we will hold their hand every step of the way.
5 is your lucky number. That's how many servings of fruits and vegetables you need each day to help live your longest life. A study released by the American Heart Association says about 2 servings of fruit and 3 servings of vegetables each day is associated with a lower risk of mortality. For your vegetables, leafy greens are rich in vitamin C and beta-carotene. Those include spinach, lettuce, and kale. Be aware though, starchy vegetables like peas, corn, and potatoes didn't seem to lower the risk of early death. Now in the fruit category, berries and citrus fruits come packed with vitamin C, fiber, beta carotene and other nutrients, but make sure you eat whole fruits for those benefits. Most fruit juices don't come with as many benefits and can even have added sugars.
Mainland China tolerates no signs of dissent whatsoever.
Are you anticipating dozens of people being prosecuted? Hundreds? Thousands?
Stories of mass internment camps have been trickling out.
Do you think you'll see your husband again?
This period of mourning is taking place in a real climate of fear. The humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in front of our eyes here.
This is one of the cells? Come on in here.
We're flying over ISIS front lines. This is the only protection we have. Nerves are still very much on edge. Firefighters have been battling this blaze for weeks. What do you say to people who question climate change?
We need to do something now.
Ivan Watson, CNN.
You can help the refugees from Ukraine. Join the over 70,000 who've already raised millions for food, shelter, and more. Explore cnn.com/impact. Click to take action.
In a touching show of support, students and staff at an elementary school in Georgia surprised their head custodian who is from Ukraine and still has dozens of family members here by covering the hallways in drawings of sunflowers, a symbol of hope here in Ukraine.
This is really...
Good morning, honey.
Thank you, thank you.
I don't know if you noticed, but we even have your family's names and stuff on some of this stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oak Hill Elementary School head custodian Lana Gazhenko joins us now. Lana, thank you so much for being with us. What did it feel like when you saw all of that in the hallway?
It was really surprised me. You know, they really make a secret. They start doing before I left, and I'm thinking, what? Some kind of project they doing. You know, elementary school, they have a plenty project, but at the morning I was really shocked and I was really surprised, you know, because war, this is not like you read on book or you watching some kind of movie. This is real people dying, and you know, dying children is hard. We just need praying. And I'm just asking everybody to pray because God can change. God can stop this war because this is terrible.
Lana, I know you have so many family members still in Ukraine. We heard that in the video mention that your family members' names were on there. Can you tell us a little bit about them, where they are, if you've been able to touch base with them?
Yeah, usually I'm doing like a once a week calling them. and talk to them. They not really far from Kiev. They between Kiev and Zhytomyr. They live in country, and right now they can hear like a neighbors is bombing, but people who run away, they come into their houses, they try help, make a shelter for them. Sometimes people run, don't have nothing in hands, just running to be alive, and they try help. And we try send some money, some clothes, whatever we can do to help them. And we ask and just pray and making sure God stop that. Right
Lana,
now
I know
they
it must
okay,
be so
but
hard
you know,
for you.
Yeah.
Thank God they're okay. I was just going to say, I know how hard it must be for you. I know your heart must be here in Ukraine, where I am. Your heart is here, and you know, yet you're so far away. What's that been like?
You know, I think my mind right there, my heart right there, but my Oak Hill family, they helped me. You know, kids in the hallway, they stopped me, they hugged, and they said, Miss Lana, we praying for you. What do you want to ask more when children, this is elementary school, they little, a lot of stuff they don't understand, but they hug you and they say they praying for you, for your family. This is a lot mean to me.
And I imagine, Lana, you could be going through your day having a very different experience. Your family is someplace where you worry about their safety, and having those people who are not in that position telling you they're thinking of you gives you so much support as you're far away from your family.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They supported me. They have a ribbon, flag, Ukrainian supporting. Yep. And prayers.
You know, a lot of these kids may not fully understand what's happening in Ukraine, but I'm sure they understand love and they understand caring, and they're proving that they are loving and caring, and they're helping you along the way. And it's so wonderful to see. It's also proof of how wonderful you must be to all of them. So thank you for being with us this morning. We are thinking of you as you and your country goes through this.
Thank you.
What a lovely gesture, and how much a difference it can make. Coming up, we do have breaking news here in Ukraine. The head of Ukraine's military intelligence is warning President Putin could be looking to carve the country in two, like North and South Korea. Plus, Chris Rock says he's not going to press charges this morning after Will Smith hit him on stage at the Oscars. This has got to be one of the most stunning things that's ever happened at an award show. We have much more information about what is developing with this coming up.
I'm Phumzile Langeni. I'm here in my capacity as the chairman of Imperial Logistics. Infrastructure is a big problem in Africa. A lot of the infrastructure that is across the continent, which continues to service current needs, is infrastructure that was put up in the 1960s. The figures are pretty staggering. We do need at least a minimum of $50 billion of investments annually over the next couple of years to extend those ports, build those roads. We're talking about a whole ecosystem that enables an efficient and a cost-effective way of moving products from one area to another. My wish is to see Africa being a significant part of global trade, developing and taking its place in the world.
In a special ongoing season of the Tug of War podcast, CNN reporters are on the ground in Ukraine, documenting Russia's invasion, the escalating conflict, and what it means for the rest of the world. Tug of War. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.